Okay, hey everyone, Dustin here. I wanted to show you all just a concept that I have come up with. If you're familiar with a relational database, specifically Microsoft Access 2013, I kind of was thinking the other day about our current process in terms of how we keep track of the information at the unit, how we keep track of not just personnel information, but serialized gear information, and how we update that information as well as disseminating it to other personnel throughout the company. And basically what I decided to do was come up with another version or another process that we can consider as an alternative to utilizing, for example, multiple Excel spreadsheets and paper copies of things and having to go back in and update these spreadsheets when in reality each team has a different spreadsheet, and it just becomes very difficult and complicated over time to maintain that information, keep it up to date, and ensure that it is also secure information, because I feel like right now we get a lot of Excel spreadsheets kind of flying around through emails with information that may not be something that you might want to, it may be, sensitive information to the person, such as, DoD ID numbers or social security numbers, phone numbers, emails. And so what I've considered is creating a relational database that uses secure encryption. So basically it sounds confusing, but it's really not. And I wanted to show you what I have created as a prototype to see what your opinion is, and if you wanted to implement something like this moving forward. So first off, a relational database is composed of tables, as you might know. So I've created two tables to start us off: personnel and serialized items. So what we can do is go throughout the entire company and fill this entire spreadsheet out. Now, when I say spreadsheet, I don't refer to this as an Excel spreadsheet, because a relational database has many more features that an Excel spreadsheet simply does not have. But first, and I'll explain that in a minute, but first we have, for the personnel, DoD ID, first name, last name, rank, address, city, state, zip, phone, email, team, and the date that this record was created in the database. A record referring to one row, and these are fields. So that's our personnel table within the database, and next we have our serialized items. So in the serialized items, I can go into the armory, for example, and record every single serialized item for every single weapon within the armory, or serialized item within the armory. It's going to take a little while, but once it's in a database, a secure database, it's going to make our lives a hell of a lot easier when it comes to getting accountability of what weapons are broken, what weapons are assigned to which personnel, what weapons does Team 3 have, how many 1911s do we have in the armory. All this information, if it's stored in a database, can be computed through a query in a matter of seconds, as compared to having to go in there and actually count these things, or just kind of taking a really non-traditional route. So right here in the serialized items table, we have serial number, item name, if it's checked out or not, date created, and the DoD ID number that is affiliated or associated with that specific serial number. So this is where the relational aspect comes in. Once we have all these weapons in the armory recorded in the serialized items section of the database, we can go in and add a DoD ID number to each one of those serialized items. And as you'll see in the personnel table, each record has a DoD ID number affiliated with it. So what this is called is a primary key. There's a thing in a relational database called a primary key and a foreign key. It sounds pretty confusing, but basically what a primary key is, it's the ID that is related, the ID in the personnel table that is related to the ID, the foreign key, here in the serialized item table. What this allows us to do is create queries, and I'll show you an example of a query in a second, very specific information in time. But next I want to go, if that's confusing, don't worry, I'm going to explain it next, so this interface may be a little confusing when you're looking at it. Ideally, we would go to when we're pulling this information up in the armory, we would pull this up. But in reality, if you're non-technical, you want something a little more closer to this. And so what this is it is a form that allows us to enter information into the database, and I'm going to show you an example of that right now. So let's use a fictitious person, and by the way, all the information in this prototype is fictitious, so it's not real information for anyone. 678, so there's a fake DOD number, Jack Johnson, E3, and we're going to put him in team 3. So there we're just going to tab down and then tab again, and there we go. It's entered into the database. Now you'll see at the bottom we're on record 8 of 8. Last record was Jack Johnson. Next record, this is going to allow us to put another person into the database. And you'll see, if we go back to our personnel table now, and I click refresh, Jack Johnson is now in our database with all of his information. Now again, like I've said, all this is fictitious information because, as you know, Marinac does not live at 69 Tinder Lane, but in our database, that is where he lives. Okay, so that's how we create a new person within the database. It's very simple, very easy, and it's very easy to go back and edit this information if someone gets promoted, for example. We can just click refresh, and there we go. Now it's saved, and you go up here and click save. So Marinac just got promoted. Okay, so it's very easy. I've covered that to update information. It's very easy to add information to the database. And if we have serialized items, say for example we're at the Armory, and I want to go and say that this item has been checked out. So we're checking people out at the Armory, and as they draw something out, we can check whether or not it has been checked out at the Armory, and it will show up in what's called a report. And I'm going to go over reports next. Actually, I'm going to go over queries next. So there's two more things I want to cover, queries and reports. So what a query is it allows us to get to very specific information very, very quickly. So what I can do is once we have all of the company information in this database, all the personnel and all the serialized items, I can go up here, I can click on create, and let's do a query design. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, and this looks really confusing, I know, but it's very, very simple actually. So we're going to click these two tables, that's where I want to get the information from. And all I'm going to do is drag and drop the information that I want to be in this query report. So I want their DOD ID number, I want their last name, I want their rank, I want their team, and I want the item name that they have checked out, I want the serial number for that item, and I also want, yeah, that's it. No, and I want to see if it's checked out or if it's not checked out. So there we're going to put in, but say I just want to see the criteria for team 3. We'll put equals 3, so team equals 3, and I'm just going to click run right here. Run, there we go, and so now it's given all that information to me, DOD ID, last name, rank, and it's only given me the information for Team 3, the items that Team 3 has checked out, whether or not that item is checked out or not, based upon, if you'll see, it says Ellis has his M4 checked out right now. If we go back to the personnel table, it should show my D, yeah, well, I haven't refreshed it, but, so that's our query, and we can, so that's how we get information very quickly, and we can go to view, and then you can print this off if you want to. There you go. So very simple. Next thing we can do, it's going to ask you if you want to save the query. We're going to say no. Now the next thing that we can do is create what's called a report. So I'm going to go to here and I'm going to say, actually let's do one more query to get very specific. I want to show you how good this really can be. So now I want to have their DOD ID number, I want to have their last name, I want to have their rank, I want to have their team, item name, the serial number of the item and whether it's checked out. So same thing, but we're going to add more things here. We're going to say last name equals Ellis. And so that's how we'll find specific information for Ellis. Okay, so we're going to click run. There we go. It's going to give me all the information for one specific person in the company. So it's very easy, like I said, to go in here and find the information that you really need. The next thing that we're going to do, however, is if you don't want to make these queries every single time you get into the database, because some people might not be comfortable with it, I can create what's called a report that will immediately launch, and it's called a macro, and it'll immediately launch as soon as we open the database up. So I'm going to say no here. It's going to ask me if I want to save it. No. Okay, so we're going to say create report. Oh, I'm sorry. So we're going to have to go to macro. Oh, okay, so we have to first create a report, create the query, then create the report, and then make the macro run the report. Sounds confusing? Okay, I apologize. So what we're going to do real quick is say, okay, every single time you open the database, this is what we want to, every time I open the database at the unit, what do I want the database to show me as soon as I open it? And that's what we're going to create right now. It's only going to take about 1 minute. So we're going to go to create query design. So right now what we're doing is creating a macro or a report that is going to open every single time this database opens, and it's going to be up to date. And so I have to create that. I don't have to do this every time, by the way. This is done before everybody gets to the unit. So I want the report to show the DoD name, the last name, rank, team, phone number, item name, serial number, and whether or not it's checked out. Okay, and I want that for the entire unit, so we're not going to add any specific criteria down here. I want that for everybody in the company. So then we're going to go ahead and say run. It's going to show us everyone. We're going to say save. It's going to ask us to name this. We're going to say company query. Say OK. We're going to say create report. It's going to create a report out of that information. We're going to make this all fit on one page. And we can say run out of time, by the way. I'll have to create another video that shows the final product. Add a logo here. This video is about to end, but I'm going to come back and do the second video to show how to create the report. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this